Hey everyone, welcome to the weekly wellness podcast of My Pet's Wellness. I'm Dr. Jason Epstein, the Executive Medical Director. This week I am joined by Dr. Rodney Robertson. He is our Director of Wellness and Personal Growth here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
Good. We normally, you expect to see Kevin here as our host. He has taken some personal time off, so hopefully I can fill in for him and do a good job. So excited to have you here. Excited for our topic today. So we're going to talk about managing stress during the holidays. It's something that we all tend to really struggle with. It's something that tends to happen no matter what your profession is. So I guess the first question is, what is it about the holiday season that makes things so stressful?
Well, I think it's pretty much universally recognized that holidays are an extremely stressful time, especially the holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. There's a lot of different factors that go into this. First of all, it's the big meal preparation with Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that. It's also the socialization that takes place during that period of time. We start having large groups of people over to our houses, or we're going to somebody else's houses for either meals or parties or just even get-togethers. And that becomes quite overwhelming because there's just too many of them. And I can't tell you the number of people that I've worked with that have said, I just hate from Thanksgiving to Christmas and New Year's because I'm just so busy. Almost every night I have some kind of commitment, and it just gets overwhelming. And I just actually wish that the holidays would even happen. Now, they actually enjoy the day itself of Thanksgiving and of Christmas and even of the starting of the new year, but it's all the things around it that just get so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Another one of the factors is, especially if you have a large family, when something like Christmas, there's gifts to purchase and you have to think it through and you have to go buy it. And then if the gifts aren't right, they have to come back. It's just all the chaos that's created by all the celebration. So Now actually there are some people that actually love all that chaos, but they're kind of weird, I think.
Yeah.
But that's part of it.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I want to mention though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Family relationships can become very difficult at times. Yeah. And then in that period of the holiday season, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, there's kind of an expectation that families get together, and it ends up being not so very much a fun time. Yeah. There's disagreements that occur. People end up leaving parties early or leaving the meal early because somebody's fighting about something that happened 6 months ago. And so it's all the tension within the family that gets pulled to the surface during that time because you're spending more time together, and it's almost an expectation that you're going to be together. And I also worked with so many clients that just say, I just don't want to even go because they're going to be there, and then that's going to lead to this. And so it's just a really stressful time.
I've been there. Especially when we got to go do this thing with this family and this family and this, and then we're going to host that. And I haven't even thought about present. And then it comes back to the I have to maybe get my significant other present or my children or parents or it's just,
if I can remember her name, right?
Bingo. So, as a vet, we have enough stress, and there's a whole other thing that I'd like to talk at the end of this potentially about some unique things that we face in the holidays. But, stress in general, what about being at that point, especially there's this weird balance of you're excited to see people, but you're really stressed. And how does stress impact mental health?
Impacts it in a major way. Stress, I think I've mentioned this before, it causes the chemicals to imbalance in norepinephrine, serotonin, the dopamine gets imbalanced. Stress produces pro-inflammatory chemicals into the body, and so your body starts bloating and all that, and then it reduces the effectiveness of our immune system. It's all those kind of things that what stress does. Stress, though, if you define it properly, is essentially, I have too much to do and I have too many responsibilities to take care of that I'm doing everything for everybody else, but I'm no longer able to take care of myself. I'm just doing. And when I go doing, I actually stop kind of being a human being, because a human being kind of rests and exists and takes time for themselves. But in that period of time, all I'm doing is doing, and I become a human doing, and I almost lose a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And so if stress is that factor, if I have too much to do, there's only one real solution, which is I have to some way set aside or replace or get rid of some of the responsibilities and obligations that I actually feel.
Yeah, no, that was me last week. So and that hits home as a vet. The everything, we have patients responsibilities. I have my staff responsibilities. I have and then home, I have my kids. I have my partner. I have like the last person I think about is me.
Yeah. And you said you're going to do it at the end, but I had already thought in preparation for this that not only do you have all of us, all these family responsibilities, all of us also work. And there's work responsibilities that are going on in there. And then there's a party at work, and there's this activity at work. And then I have my Secret Santa at work, which just adds to it.
Yeah.
And then in the vet field, I think you're going to
We'll see if you guess what I'm going to say.
Well, what is one of the most popular gifts at Christmas time for families? They buy pets.
Yeah.
And then they're bringing them in, and you already have a full schedule. And then I was expecting to take some time off between Christmas and New Year's, but now I have a totally full schedule. Am I kind of right?
So actually, you'd be surprised. The puppies come in January.
The puppies come in January. Okay.
What we see in the field is Thanksgiving to New Year's, people are home a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
They're spending more time with their pets. And there are a lot of senior pets that currently are just left at home during the day.
Oh, good.
And so now you're spending a lot more time with these dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so as much as this is a time of like a happiness and celebration, in my experience, we see more euthanasias in the Thanksgiving to New Year's time of year than any other time of year.
I didn't realize that. That's a good point.
We all see it coming. Like, it's just like last week when it was a full moon, Friday the 13th, and all these other things, everyone in the ER is just like, please. Like, you just have these moments. Thanksgiving to New Year's is euthanasia season.
So do you think that is related to the stress that I'm talking about, in that if the family member is spending more time with their pet, whether it's the cat or the dog or the hamster, whatever it is, and they start noticing problems, that creates stress also, and they feel the sadness that goes with that?
I think it's more of, as veterinarians, we have all the things that everyone else does with stress of the holidays, but then the stress level and the emotional toll of our job changes during this time of year. So like, we're supposed to be happy and celebrating, and 50% of the days we're coming home from work after having euthanized 1 to 3 pets.
Yeah.
And some of which we've known for a long time, and they've been home. And so that's why I wanted to save this for the end, because it has a weird turn. But like, it's a big part of what the holiday season means to me as a veterinarian.
Okay.
And so it's a different aspect of how you can have this mixture of work where you still have to have the mix. You're happy, but you're dealing with this, and then it's the holidays, and there's party, and you do this, but then you have your Christmas party the next day with your work people, and then you have this, and so it just adds to it. But it's something that I don't know how much it gets shared. I don't know how much our clients' perspective really understand this. I've had this conversation with families that I've had to help do this that time of year. I'm like, listen, you're not the only one that's making this call 2 days before Christmas. Like, it's because you were home the last 2 weeks, and you can see that like this kiddo's not happy. And so anyway, I don't want to side rail us.
No, that's fine. This is all part of the topic. I was going to bring it up. You just know more about the actual impact on the vet than I do.
Yeah.
So now, if the stress can be simply defined as I have too much to do, I have too many responsibilities, I have too many obligations, the only actual relief from that is I have to reduce that load. And the only way to reduce the load is to say that really ugly word called no. Okay. Now, when you say no, you're risking hurting somebody or damaging a relationship, but you have to do it because you can't do everything. You absolutely can't. And so you have to be selective in what obligations and responsibilities that you select, trying to prioritize them in a proper way so that when something comes up and I get an invitation to a party or to an event or to a meal, I have to think through the fact that, yeah, I'd like to go, I'd like to see the people, but is that ultimately to my best interest during this busy time of the year?
Yeah.
Because when you get so active going and doing all these various things, the family unit itself begins to suffer. Because mommy and daddy are gone so long, they're always going to parties, and I'm always left with the babysitter, and the babysitter doesn't pay any attention to me. There's that scenario. And then it actually fractures the family in this way as the kids get older. Well, they don't want to be around mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, but so then they start going to their events with their friends and their friends' families and parties, and then the parents, and it everybody ends up going in different directions. So it's no longer, when the kids are younger, we go together or you stay at home with the babysitter. Now it's, well, mom's going to that party at work and dad's going to his party at work and the kids are going to their friends' parties. And so now we're splintering during that period of time. And it can have a dramatic impact upon not only family life, but the family relationships, to the point where, again, you almost get to the point where I just wish this could all go away.
Yeah. No, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to combating stress and ways of relieving it, helping, you did say the no word, but what other things can we as veterinarians, as people in the field, and as just anybody out there, what tools can we have in our belt, for a metaphor, what things can we have in our tool belt to combat holiday stress?
Okay.
Other than just saying, no, I can't go.
So that's a good question. I'm going to speak specifically to the vet industry and what you're talking about. It also relates to anybody else. So you have a family, you have children, you have other family responsibilities. You also have responsibilities at work. This is part of what's building up and it's getting totally out of control. When this escalates, I have no control of my life. Okay. So the tools you have to use, whether you're a veterinarian regarding your family and your staff, or whether you're just a regular person in life, the two tools are planning and communication. It basically, you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, when everything comes up and then I say, okay, I can go to your party. And then you find out, oh my gosh, I'd already said I was going to their party. Now the stress is elevating. Mm-hmm. So one of these is just a simple tool. I do it. It works. You should do it now as we approach the holiday season. Get out a calendar. Now, okay, some people are really experts at their phone calendars, okay? I actually think in this case, there's a visual help by printing out a calendar, one of the blank calendars with spaces in it, so that you can put it in your phone and that gives you a reminder. But actually, and not a little one, a big one, and start writing every obligation in there once you agree to it. Because then when the new opportunity comes up, you can quickly go and pull out that calendar that goes from right before Thanksgiving through the New Year's. And I already see right there what's going on. Otherwise, it's kind of fumbling at times to just, okay, I got to go look at my calendar on my phone. Oh, yeah. But the problem with that is usually, if you're like me, when I go to look at a date, I go right to the date. I don't look at the whole month, okay? Or I might look at the week. But you got to look at the whole month. Yeah. Okay. You just have to have the whole perspective of everything that's going on. Is my recommendation. You could use the calendar on your phone or some other calendar, but you have to have a plan. Yep. The plan is, I've got to know what things I've already agreed to. I also, as I look at the calendar, have to have spaces that I block out for times with people that mean the most to me.
And yourself.
I also have to block out some times for my work people that I'm responsible for. You get what I'm saying? So going into it, you've already got those dates plugged up. Yeah. So then when somebody says, hey, I'm having a party next Friday night, can you come? You can instantly look and say, maybe you don't have another party, but that was the night you set aside for the family. What should you say? I've got to say no. Yeah. Now, when you're planning, it really raises some anxiety because you don't want to say no to somebody because you're going to offend them. Well, you got to get over that. I mean, you just have to. Most people I have found are actually very understanding about this because their calendar is the same as yours. The proper way to do it is, I would really love to do it. You have to mean it or they can see through it. But I've already have too many other commitments I've already made. And that's the time that I have one of those commitments or I'm going to spend time with my family. Please, ask me again next year and maybe let me know a little bit sooner so you can get on. Otherwise, there are families, vets are going constantly during this whole period of time. And then you go into January, the beginning of the new year, and you're freaking exhausted. I mean, you just can't do anymore. You don't have anything left in your tank.
And that's when the puppies come in.
That's when the puppies come in. I didn't know that. Okay. Now, the other thing I said is not only planning, it's also communication. So you have your calendar, but you have to share that calendar with your husband, your wife, even your kids. You say to the kids, if something comes up, I want you to put yours on the calendar after you talk to me about it so that everybody is communicating. I not only have to know what my responsibility is, but I have to know what your responsibilities are, the other members of my family's responsibilities are, and the same thing I think at work. You can have a separate one at work, and then you're putting it up there at work for your staff to see. Now, you don't put all the personal stuff, but this is kind of what our staff looks like during this time. Here's where the staff party is. You get what I'm saying, so that everybody can get the big picture view of what's happening. So when they sit there and say, well, maybe I should plan a party, they might say, well, nobody's going to come because everybody's doing something else.
Yeah.
So sharing the calendar is part of the communication. But also it's the personal communication with the family members and the staff.
Yeah.
By letting them know how you're doing, how overwhelmed you are, but also asking them, how are you doing? Are you getting overwhelmed? I mean, if you've got a vet tech that can't be very effective during that period of time because they come into work every morning dragging because they were out till 1 o'clock in the morning at a party every night, that is a concern for you and the hospital, but it's also a concern for them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get overwhelmed and burn out and you're going to lose them and they're going to get sick. They're going to get a cold. They're under stress. They're going to get the flu. And now you've lost them for 4 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And God forbid they get the coronavirus because then they're out for 14 days.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So it's the communication, making sure at work and at home, how is everybody doing? We got to talk about this on a regular basis, at least a few times a week.
Yeah.
I could even say, I try to do it during that period of time almost daily. I check in and just say, how are you doing? Is the schedule too much for you? Do we need to reconsider a commitment we made? Although we committed to it, is it no longer the right thing to do? So if you agree on that, then you have to go back to the person and say, I'm sorry, I'm no longer able to do it. Okay. And I would just believe that most people, because we're all going through the same thing, understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's that, I think the big thing that vet or no vet, a lot of us struggle with is this assumption of like, they're expecting me to come. I told them yes. And if I back out, it's like, no, the party's going to go on without you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
But we work up in our head that we're going to be disappointing someone. We're going to let them down. We start to feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
There's that word again about choosing ourselves or choosing, those sorts of making that choice over honoring a commitment. Because it's just not a good. We don't like to back out. We don't like to say no.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great couple of tools. And the one thing I want to add from my experience, being in more of a leadership position, is delegate. Because you said say no, but also when you get that giant list of things, this was me last week. My brain was gonna like go off the rails, and I wrote down 4 full pages of things that I have to do in the next few months. And it was like, I can't do all of this. But it needs to get done. And so sitting down and spending a day and be like, all right, who's in charge of this? I can't be, but I need to know it gets done. And like my brain just, that's what we do. So being able to look at tasks and say, okay, this person should take this and this is you, and just being able to delete it and move on and remove things off of your list, I think is a key tool for those of us that have that leadership responsibility, whether it's you're one of the 2 parents and it's like, all right, other parent, you got this. I can't have this on my plate. Or it's, professional.
Yeah. That delegation is absolutely a critical role in this whole process, because if you try to do it all yourself, you're going to crash and burn. So I have a friend that the couple always planned this big Christmas party at the insistence of the husband. He had a business, and he had a lot of friends, and he wanted to do that for everybody. But she ended up having to do everything, and it was overwhelming her. And so then she said, I can't do it anymore, but he was keep pushing for the yearly party. So then she said, okay, I'll do it, but you're going to have to help. He said, sure. She delegated a bunch of responsibilities. It actually wasn't that much.
Yeah.
The next year comes. So we're going to do the party again? Guess who said no? He did. He said, it's too much work. The power of delegation is not only to release the pressure from yourself, but it helps them to appreciate the ones that are just showing up and saying, surprise, I'm here. That these things require efforts.
Yeah.
And so you actually begin reconsidering, maybe we're not going to have it this year, or maybe we take it from this size down to this size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue because we've talked about, why the holidays cause stress and how that stress can impact us. We've talked about what ways we can combat stress, but last thing I want to talk on is how can we, especially in the vet field, as doctors or as technicians, what can we do to support and help each other? You mentioned kind of checking in, hey, how you doing? But what things can we do, to just help each other out in these stressful times that we're supposed to be relaxed and celebrating? So what are some of the things that we can do to help others?
Well, Jason, we work together on our little Thursday night rounds for vets. I'm not necessarily plugging that, although it wouldn't be bad to do that. Yeah. What you need to do for each other is to communicate and check in, just to make sure that they know how everybody is doing. The way we release stress is through communication and talking about how it feels when I'm feeling this way. I don't know what a pressure cooker is. Well, they're not used too much anymore, but the lid locks down and then the pressure builds up inside, and that's what cooks the food. Mm-hmm. But then when you done, you can't just open up the top. It'll go boom. So you have a valve at the top, and you slowly release the pressure until you can release the top. Well, that's actually what we need to do. What we're all doing is at work as vets and staff, the pressure is building, not only at home, but at work. We're dealing with all these sick pets and all that. And so by talking about it, setting aside even 15 minutes a day with your staff, or maybe even longer, and I know sometimes that's hard, and just get in the break room or something and talk about how, what kind of stress you're under. That's the way that as we just share what we're all going through, some of the pressure goes away a little bit at a time so that it doesn't eventually explode on you. So I think the best way that we can support ourselves is to be aware of the problem and to talk to each other to make sure that everybody's checking in with how they're actually feeling. Because otherwise you end up in big trouble.
Yeah, no, and that's one thing that I've had to learn about myself is the difference between, hey, how you doing? Good. Okay, cool. Walk away. And no, let's go over here. How are you?
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in that.
Yeah. If you ask somebody how you doing, if they say fine, you know that they're not fine. Well, there's an acronym for fine, but we won't go into that right now. That's a push off. What I'm talking about is exactly what you're saying. A real honest conversation. Yeah. Don't tell me you're fine. Tell me what's going on. Tell me the emotions you have, the feelings you have. Are you being overwhelmed? I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to criticize you. I'm not going to attack you. I just want to help you to even get in touch with your own feelings, because in the midst of this chaos, a lot of time you have the feelings, but you can't really identify them.
Yeah.
It's just confusing. But if somebody just comes and talks to you about it, trying to be a very safe person for you, then that process of talking about it will release the pressure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I am going to mildly shamelessly plug our wellness rounds, because I do get a lot out of those. So for those of you that don't know, Dr. Rodney and I are there every week on Thursday nights at 7:00. And it's a support group style meeting that Dr. Rodney kind of oversees, makes sure that we're all, being... what's the word you use for the type of person? Safe. There we go.
Safe people are willing to listen without judgment and criticism, to just support each other.
Yes.
An unsafe person judges and criticizes and attacks. So we want to be safe people.
Yeah. So we're there every Thursday night. Hope to see some of you guys there. I want to thank Dr. Rodney for
Sure.
joining
Thank
me
you.
here today. And for those of you who joined us and listened in, hopefully this was helpful. Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify. And don't forget to check the description for additional details, including a link to our DVM support network. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.